and today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about updating the sex education program in East Rochester School District. Sex education has been an important part of a public school education for many years. It started as early as 1912 when the National Education Association wanted teachers to be trained in programs to talk to their students about sex. In 1940, the U.S. Public Health Service advocated for sex education in public schools even more than they were before. In 1953, American School Health Association created programs centered more on family life education. And in 1955, the American Medical Association created the Sex Education Series to educate more students. Of course, like most things, it faced opposition for many people. The first organized opposition started from the 1960s and lasted throughout the 80s. It was led mostly by Christian-based groups, and they wanted to ban any and all kinds of sex education for public schools. They described sex education as smut and considered it to be exploiting their children to too much and encouraging sex. In 1980, however, there was evidence that proved that sex education didn't promote sex at all, and in fact, it was actually educating and doing its job. Sex ed continued to be taught from then on out, and education changed drastically in the 1980s due to the AIDS epidemic. After the large epidemic happened, information about AIDS and HIV had to be taught in schools along with other different STDs. In East Rochester specifically, sex education is a mandatory course, although it's part of a course called health. It's not a course within itself. It's taught in 8th grade, but then it's not taught again until 12th grade. It's not actually called sex education like I mentioned, it's just a small unit within a larger class. It's focused more, the whole class itself is focused more on mental and physical health and doesn't really talk much about your sexual health. Again, in East Rochester, it's taught by extremely capable teachers. They're not the problem is the program itself. The lack of maturity of the students and the lack of promotion by the school makes it hard for the educators to actually teach. It severely affects the quality of the program when the teachers are not being backed up by the school and nothing is being promoted. It's kind of a class that's not taken seriously. Most people kind of consider it another study hall, and so it's hard to provide a quality class to people that don't really care. So when it's taught to the children in 8th grade, they're too young. Most children are not sexually active in 8th grade, and by the time it's in 12th grade, more than half of them are sexually active, and it's a little bit too late. Also, birth control and different forms of it are not mentioned until the 12th grade year of it. This is a chart from the Child Trends Data Bank, and it shows on here from 2013, which is the year that I graduated, the ages of students who lose their virginity and when they become sexually active based on grade. So if you look when it's in grade 9, which would be about the same as they are in grade 8, when the program is first taught, only about 20% of the students are sexually active. But then if you look in 12th grade, it's all the way up to almost 50%. So that's a big jump because the 2 years in between, nothing's covered. Nobody's talking to these students about how to be safe, what to do if something happens, and they kind of are going uneducated and not making the best decisions. So basically, the system that they have right now is not working. Teen pregnancy has been increasing for years and years in East Rochester specifically. The class of 2008 from East Rochester had no pregnancies. The class of 2011 had just 1. But by 2013, when I graduated, there was 4 pregnancies. And although the number of students being sexually active and the number of pregnancies are increasing, the program is staying the same and not adjusting with it. So there are a lot of problems with it, but some of the major problems is that it starts too early and then it's not talked about again for years. In 8th grade, when it is first talked about, it's also really not talked about very much. It's just briefly mentioned. They more so talk about body parts and the science aspects of sex. They don't actually talk about pregnancies, STDs, birth control, things like that. So in the United States, the average age for virginity loss for females is 16, and for males it's 17. So those two ages are right around sophomore and junior year, where sex education is not even a course. Like I had mentioned before, birth control is not discussed until senior year, and based on these statistics, that's a little bit too late. And students are definitely becoming sexually active before they're sexually educated. So the solution would be to teach sex education more frequently. Keep it in 8th grade to start it, kind of ease the kids into it, and then again in 10th grade when they're starting to become sexually active again, and then in 12th grade to reinforce it. I also think that they should separate sex ed and health completely, because your sexual health is just as important as your health itself. It can affect your life in many ways, just as heart disease or other different health-related issues can. Another good idea, I think, would be having a professional come in to talk to the students about birth control, how to treat STDs, and different places they can go. Sometimes it's hard to hear that from people that you know, which would be a teacher, especially in a small school like East Rochester. You know everybody, so it is a little awkward. It would be nice to have someone who's more qualified to tell you about it. I also think that the classes should require work. When I took sex education in my health class, there was no work. We didn't do projects, we didn't do presentations, and we didn't ever have homework. So you basically showed up, you listened, you passed. That was how it is. So you're not learning anything if you're not actually doing it. So if there was homework involved or textbooks with reading, then it would kind of be a little more drilled into them. And I also think that the school itself should do a better job in providing information. There's many free clinics around, and there's tons of information that they could give to their students freely. You can go into any doctor's office or clinic and get tons of pamphlets that you can easily hand out to your students about birth control, STDs, abortion, any of those things. So who benefits from this? Everybody. Simply put, everybody benefits. Teens, whether they're sexually active or not, are still benefiting. They're learning all the information that they are going to need to know one day. They're given the information earlier on, and it helps them make smarter choices. Like I mentioned, your sexual health is just as important as your health itself. Pregnancy, STDs, anything like that can affect your life forever, and it's better to make decisions about that when you're informed. Birth control, like I also mentioned, is extremely important, and it's not something that's really talked about. So a lot of times students don't realize that there are ways to prevent what's going on. And STD prevention is also extremely important, because many STDs can grow and take your life. So overall, I think that we need to update the system. I think that with the changing times, the younger students becoming sexually active, the program itself should be changing. I think that if students are still getting pregnant, then the system that they have right now is not working. So I really think that that's the best idea, is to update the system, make it a little more intensive, and have it happen more frequently. Thank you very much.